The prince's residence was engulfed in flames. Both I and Yao Yinlin, the concubine, were trapped inside. But the prince only saved me. When she perished in agony amidst the ashes, all he said was coldly, "She is just a concubine. You are my official wife. Saving you, I have no regrets." 5 years later, that same prince accused my father, Prime Minister Qin Mingyuan, of treason. My entire clan was executed under false charges. Even as the fire consumed me, I could still see the hatred in his eyes. If it weren't for your father's power, why would I have abandoned the woman I truly loved? When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to that very morning. The day of the fire. This time, I wasted no time. Instead of staying behind, I rushed to the temple in place of the prince to pay respects to the old matriarch. Let's see, I thought, if both he and Yao Yinlin are caught in that same blaze, who will he choose? Huh? I gasped for breath. The pain from my previous death, my neck being severed, still haunted my body. I trembled uncontrollably. Pain. It was excruciating. Even after death, I had felt every moment of it, slow, torturous, unbearable. Looking into the bronze mirror, hatred surged within me. Qin Mingyang, you framed my father and destroyed my family. In this life, I will never forgive you. As Xiaotao, my maid, adjusted my robe, I asked calmly, what day is it today? It's the beginning of the 7th month of the Renshu year. Miss, are you all right? She looked at me, concerned. I shook my head. I'm fine. Just thought, it's been a while since mother went to the temple. Let's go visit her today. Xiaotao looked puzzled. But miss, did you forget? Just yesterday you said the prince would return early from court today. You even planned to cook for him yourself. Did I? Maybe I truly had forgotten. But even if I hadn't, it didn't matter. I absolutely could not stay here today. In just a few hours, the fire would break out. I had to escape it. I wanted to see, when faced with danger, would Qin Mingyang save himself or the woman he loved most. Just as I stepped out of the main hall, I ran into Yao Yinlin. Seeing me ready to leave the manor, she blocked my path. Where is sister going in such a hurry? I didn't want to waste time on her. But memories from my past life made me hesitate. My mother has been at the temple for several days. I'm going to visit her. She was stunned. You're going to the temple. That means you won't be returning today. She frowned. Suspicion filled her voice. Why today of all days? What's so special about today? Why shouldn't I go? I replied flatly, watching her carefully. We never had much to say to each other before, and her sudden insistence made me more certain. Something was definitely wrong. Seeing the doubt on my face, Yao Yinlin smiled and said, It's not a festival or holiday. There's nothing special today. If sister wants to go somewhere, just go. I said nothing more. I gave her one long look before turning and leaving the prince's residence. On the carriage, I quietly instructed Xiaotao. Along the way, get off and inform our people inside the manor. Tell them to keep a close eye on the concubines' every move today. If anything unusual happens, I want a full report the moment I return. Xiaotao wasn't just a maid. She was one of the secret guards placed by my father. Skilled in martial arts, she pretended to be a meek servant in daily life. Hearing my order, she immediately understood the gravity of the situation. Without a word, she slipped off the carriage halfway through the journey. At the temple, the old princess consort was shocked to see me. I didn't say much, just that it had been a while, and I wanted to visit. I knew full well that in a few hours, once the fire erupted in the manor, someone would come fetch the old princess consort. And when we returned together, I'd see with my own eyes what truth lay behind the flames. Sure enough, by sundown, a servant rushed in with news. The prince was trapped in the blaze, and the old princess consort was urgently needed back to take charge. When we arrived, Qin Mingyang had been rescued. But half his body and face were burned, and he lay unconscious. Strangely, the concubine, who had perished in the fire in my previous life, was safe. Not a single burn on her. While the imperial physicians scrambled to save Qin Mingyang, I used the opportunity to contact my hidden network and learn the truth behind the fire. That's when it all became clear. The so-called fire had been deliberately set. Yao Yinlin had staged her own death to escape. She'd planned to elope with her lover. But in this life, her plan failed because she and Qin Mingyang were trapped together. Qin Mingyang, too attached to her, didn't give her the chance to flee. I guessed it was likely thanks to him that she escaped unharmed. And in saving her, he suffered those terrible injuries. But what did that have to do with me? In my past life, I bore his hatred for this. What a joke. Qin Mingyang destroyed my entire clan over a green hat. Now that I knew the truth, there's no way I'd let it slide. Turning to my shadow guard, I ordered, "Find the concubine's lover. Keep eyes on him. I'll be needing him soon. Yao Yinlin, you ruined my life. This time, you and your lover will pay dearly for everything." When I entered the inner hall, Yao Yinlin was already seated beside the old princess consort. Her eyes were cold as they landed on me, my heart tensed. Something had happened. Sure enough, the old princess consort immediately shouted, "Muo Shi, kneel before me." I stood firm and replied calmly, "I don't understand, mother. What have I done?" She slammed her hand on the table. "You dare defy me?" I had no doubt Yao Yinlin had stirred up trouble, inciting the old princess consort to blame me. She was the madam's niece on the maternal side, their relationship was close. It made sense that the old princess consort would believe her words. But no matter how powerful her influence, I wasn't about to let them pin this disaster on me. I responded coldly, "That's unfair. I am the daughter of the Prime Minister. If I kneel without fault, Father will never let this go. Rest assured," I added with a faint smile, "if I'm truly guilty, not only will I kneel. You may punish me however you wish." The old princess consort recognized the threat in my words. I was invoking my father's name to counter her pressure. She slammed the table again. "You nearly got the prince burned alive. And you still dare say you're innocent?" I didn't respond right away. I turned to glance at Yao Yinlin. What lies had she told to twist this into my fault? Feigning shock, I said, "Mother, arson in the manor is a serious crime. One can't just throw such accusations around." "If the fire had nothing to do with you," she snapped, "why did you insist on going to the temple today? Clearly, you were trying to avoid responsibility." That was the moment I knew she had no real evidence. If she had any, it would have exposed Yao Yinlin instead. I met her gaze squarely. "I visited Mother simply on a whim. It was coincidence, nothing more. You still dare deny it?" The old princess consort snapped. "Do you dare swear to the heavens this has nothing to do with you? I, daughter of the Muo family, have never done anything that defies heaven or violates reason. Not only do I dare swear it had nothing to do with me, I'm even willing to report it to the authorities and ask the court to launch a full investigation." "Mother," I said calmly, "a fire breaking out in the prince's manor is no small matter. The prince himself was seriously injured and lies unconscious. Let the authorities decide what is just. But since you have returned to the manor, I'll leave the decision in your hands. If you agree, I'll send word to the magistrate immediately to request an official investigation." Seeing how composed I was, the old princess consort finally nodded after a pause. "You're right. This is serious. My son is lying there half dead. If it's heaven's doing, then so be it. But if it was man-made, I'll personally file a charge and have the culprit's family executed to the 9th degree. If you truly want justice, then..." Wait. Yao Lin suddenly cut in. Aunt, we can't do that. She clutched her sleeve, voice trembling, eyes brimming with tears. The fire, the prince's injuries, my heart aches terribly. But this matter concerns the reputation of the entire prince's household. We must tread carefully. The old princess consort frowned. What do you mean? Think about it, aunt, she said earnestly. The prince's manor has always been viewed by the people as a place of discipline and security. Now a fire breaks out, and the prince is gravely injured. If word spreads, it will ruin our reputation. Instead of alarming the court right away, why don't we first investigate the cause ourselves? If we find proof it was deliberate, then we can submit our case. Her words sounded reasonable, measured, cautious, but I knew better. She wanted this delay to clean up the evidence. She wanted to turn this into an act of nature. And just as I expected, she offered herself. If Aunt trusts me, let me investigate. I swear I'll get to the bottom of it with utmost care. She even threw a glance in my direction, full of unspoken meaning. She was implying that if it was my doing, the court officials, likely swayed by my father, would protect me. The old princess consort had always trusted her implicitly. Naturally, she didn't doubt a thing. After a moment of thought, she nodded. Very well. I'll trust you. But you must find the cause quickly. If not, I'll go to the court myself and request a proper investigator. Yao Lin bowed gently. Rest assured, aunt. I'll uncover the truth soon and restore the honor of the manor, and the prince. I lowered my eyes. I didn't argue. Let her dance a little longer. The more she moved, the more mistakes she would make. Later, when Qin Mingyang awoke, he summoned me. I didn't think much of it, but the moment I stepped into the room, I knew something was wrong. His eyes, once gentle, now bore the contempt of a predator toward a lowly insect. I sensed danger but feigned ignorance. Approaching softly, I asked. You're awake. How are you feeling? He didn't reply at once. He just stared at me. When I drew closer, he finally spoke, slow and deliberate. Muo Lan, you came back too, didn't you? Though I had suspected it already, hearing it aloud made everything clear. He had returned too. In our past life, he had buried his hatred deep. But now, reborn, he had the arrogance to confront me head-on. The triumph of his last life had made him bold. I smiled slightly, sat beside him, and answered calmly. Yes, I came back too. He sneered, like it was just as he expected. Then his gaze turned venomous. Muo Lan, you really are a snake-hearted woman. This time, you returned first and even had the gall to scheme against me. Have you forgotten how you died in the last life? How could I forget? Before I was beheaded, I had been tortured in prison. Though the court sentenced my family to death by beheading. Qin Mingyang, because of that charred corpse he believed was Yao Lin, made sure I experienced fire firsthand. He bribed the jailers to carry out the punishment of iron branding with molten metal. I was burned and tortured for days. By the time I was executed, not a patch of intact flesh remained on my body. The pain of it still lingers in my bones. Even remembering it now makes me tremble inside. But ever since I returned, I vowed. Never again. I would not fall into that same hell. Would I fear him now just because of a few words? He was injured. He would do as before. Blame it all on me. But if he won't let me go, then I'll fight him to the bitter end. You've come back, I said slowly, but your mind seems clouded. Given my father's standing in court, do you think you can touch me? He heard the threat in my voice, but showed no concern. Instead, he mocked. Ha! Muo Lan, I succeeded in the last life. I'll succeed again in this one. You want to try me? In the past life, neither father nor I ever suspected him. That's why we fell into his trap so easily. But he didn't know, this time, from the very first day I returned. I had already written a letter to father. I had told him everything, how Qin Mingyang favored the concubine and could no longer be trusted. If he wanted to strike now, it wouldn't be so easy. Of course, I kept all this to myself. I had no intention of fighting him head-on. What I wanted was to let him dig his own grave, to make him suffer the consequences of his own sins. Qin Mingyang, we've both returned from death. Why not let the past go and live better lives? But if you insist on forcing me down the same doomed path, then I will drag you and your father down with me. My words clearly struck a nerve. He faltered, but still shouted in anger. You still say you didn't harm me. Look at these wounds. And you still dare claim innocence. If I didn't do it, why should I admit it? I replied. And this is the masterpiece of your beloved Yao Yinlin. In our past life, didn't you say it was because of me that you couldn't save her? So this time, I stepped aside. I left for the temple. What happened to you has nothing to do with me. Blame the fire, nothing more. Besides, haven't you ever wondered how strange this whole thing is? The timing, the flames, it's all too convenient. My words, diverting water to lead fire, finally sparked a flicker of suspicion in his eyes. But even so, his grudge remained. That fire, wasn't it set by you? Accusing the innocent. Really? You think I'll fall for this just because you cry victim louder? I remained calm. I had nothing to do with the fire. If you doubt me, investigate. If you find any proof it was me, then go ahead, punish me. His cold smirk deepened. I didn't care. I continued. Oh, and one more thing. As the official wife, it should have been my duty to care for you while you're injured. But we both know you can't stand the sight of me. So why not let your beloved concubine handle it instead? Frankly, I can't be bothered. Nursing the sick is thankless work. Since Yao Yinlin loves to play the devoted woman, let her suffer through it. I glanced at him. Every time I saw his face, I felt the urge to kill him. He misunderstood my intent, of course. He thought I had some ulterior motive, and narrowed his eyes. What exactly are you plotting? I knew his thoughts, so I simply replied with a sly smile. Qin Mingyang, your instincts are sharp. Yes, I do have a selfish motive. I just want to see, with your face now disfigured, whether the woman you love most can still love you with the same sincerity. I didn't accuse her. I didn't hint she had a lover. No. I wanted him to feel it for himself. To taste betrayal. To know what it's like when love gets fed to the dogs. Only then will I tear away the mask. And when that moment comes, he'll lose his mind. Only someone as vicious as you would be so shallow. He hissed. Yinlin loves me more than anyone. No matter what I look like, she'll never stop loving me. The confidence in his voice, arrogant, blind, almost pitiful, made me laugh aloud. Good. Since you're so certain, why don't we make a bet? If your beloved concubine can truly nurse you without resentment, if she shows no disgust at all, I'll give up my position as princess consort to her. His eyes narrowed further. Suspicion flared again. You. Willingly giving up your title. You expect me to believe that? I shook my head. No. I won't let myself be cast aside. I won't bring shame to the Muo family. But if you're willing to write me a formal divorce letter, I'll agree to divorce you. That set him off. He sneered. Muo Lan, do you take me for a fool? Why would I divorce you for no reason? Your sly old father would never let it go. He'd file charges against me at court. And the emperor already distrusts me. No. That's your true plan, isn't it? I shook my head, speaking sincerely. Prince, you're overthinking this. My father has always listened to me. If Yao Lin truly proves capable of staying by your side, loving you just as she did before, then divorce will be my decision. And my father will not oppose it. In fact, he might even feel guilty and say a few good words for you at court. All that remains, I added with a faint smile, is whether you have the courage to accept the bet. Say good words for him. Ha! I'd been wary of Qin Mingyang from the start. I simply hadn't acted yet. He was still covered in bandages and hadn't seen his own reflection. But I had seen what fire injuries could do. A burned face was not simply scarred, it was disfigured beyond recognition. I truly wanted to see how Yao Lin, who had long since set her heart elsewhere, would hide her revulsion once she saw his face. She'd have to put on quite the performance. Interesting. This version of her is certainly more entertaining. Fine, he said at last, smug. I'll accept your wager. I said nothing else. I simply met his arrogant gaze with a faint, knowing smile. Then came the outcome of Yao Lin's investigation. She declared the fire an accident, dry weather, overheated materials, spontaneous combustion. Of course. And only a few days into nursing him, she announced she was pregnant. Upon receiving the diagnosis, she hurriedly had Qin Mingyang summon me, demanding I hand over the position of princess consort. She looked at me with smug satisfaction. Sister, she said sweetly, I heard you made a wager with the prince. You agreed to give up your title if I remained devoted. I didn't bother looking at her. Instead, I looked to Qin Mingyang. He met my gaze, cold and detached. This was your own offer, he said plainly. You've lost the bet. The title should go to her. Pregnant. I laughed inwardly. When Qin Mingyang was first injured, one of the physicians had secretly told me. His condition had damaged his root, his fertility. If that's true, then how did Yao Lin get pregnant? The answer was obvious. That child was most likely not his. Of course, I had placed the bet precisely so I could push for divorce. The very first goal after rebirth. Cut all ties with him. But I couldn't let my true intent show. Instead, I made a show of indignation. Just a few days and you two are already this eager. I nearly blurted out, shameless dogs. Yao Lin smiled even more sweetly. Is sister regretting it? I hadn't yet spoken when Qin Mingyang cut in, annoyed. Regret is useless. The divorce document is ready. Just sign it. I clenched my fists, looked at the two of them with burning rage, and hissed. Fine. I'll sign it. You two better not regret this. Yao Lin snatched the divorce document as soon as I signed, smiling coyly. Sister, one more thing. I just found out I'm pregnant. If news of your divorce spreads now, the public will say the prince discarded his wife for a concubine. It would ruin the prince's and the household's reputation. So, please, keep this private for now. When my child is born, the prince will seek an imperial decree of grace. You can leave then, with your dignity intact. Her words were cloaked in concern for Qin Mingyang and the manor. But her real intention was crystal clear to me. She wanted me to stay here. To be a discarded woman without title. To give her the chance to gloat in front of me every day. I smiled thinly, gaze shifting to Qin Mingyang. Your delusion truly knows no bounds. Why, exactly, should I agree to such terms? He sensed the mockery in my voice and grew furious. Lin carries my blood. Whatever she asks, you will comply. Don't forget, this divorce was your request. Ah, so he saw through my intention. But since the result was what he wanted, he didn't press further. Just as he could read my mind, he had surely seen through Yao Lin's too. The difference was, he chose to indulge her. But none of this mattered anymore. In this life, all I wanted was peace. Since they dared make unreasonable demands, I would claim what was rightfully mine. I'll agree, I said slowly. On one condition. My entire dowry must be returned to me. Transferred in full into my private holdings. If not, I will return to the Prime Minister's residence at once. And when I do, the rumors about you discarding your wife for a concubine will spread like wildfire. Qin Mingyang hesitated. Then nodded. So that was how I became a ghost in this house. Present, but irrelevant. I didn't care. With my reclaimed dowry, I opened Suayu Pavilion, a business of my own. I left early and returned late each day, treating the prince's manor like an inn. Naturally, Yao Yinlin had few chances to see me. Perhaps finding no stage to display her authority, and lacking the opportunity to make things difficult for me. She deliberately showed up at Suayu Pavilion, the shop I owned. The moment she stepped inside, she began flaunting her status as if she were the mistress of the world. So the rumors were true. I heard sister opened a shop here, and it turns out to be real. What's the matter? Are you short on money these days? Yao Yinlin was a concubine-born daughter. While she wasn't mistreated by her stepmother, her monthly allowance was limited. After her daily expenses, there was little left. The Qin family once accumulated considerable wealth. But because the late prince's actions earned the emperor's distrust, much of their fortune was confiscated. Now, the entire manor was little more than a hollow shell. Back then, Qin Mingyang came to me not just for my father's power, but also because he coveted my dowry. After marrying into the manor, I spent a large portion of it replenishing the empty coffers, allowing the house to maintain its former splendor. Now that we were divorced, I had quietly reclaimed all of it. Suayu Pavilion was established with those very funds. To save face, Qin Mingyang had kept all of this from Yao Yinlin, which made her words today all the more laughable. I showed no reaction and replied lightly, deliberately provoking her. You're right. If there's anything you like, feel free to pick one, my gift to you. She had come just to flaunt herself. But when I responded with such generosity, it clearly made her uncomfortable. Unable to swallow her pride, she puffed herself up. Sister, what kind of thing could this little shop possibly carry that I can't afford? Bring out the most expensive piece you've got, I want to see it. My shopkeeper, whom I personally hired for his sharp judgment, had already noted her modest clothing and jewelry the moment she entered. There was no way she could afford our store's prized piece. He was about to gently warn her, but I gave him a subtle glance and stopped him. Instead, I said coolly, Certainly, madam. Please wait a moment. Yao Yinlin, hearing the shopkeeper acknowledge her demand, shot me a smug glance. That look, so self-important, was truly laughable. Soon, the shopkeeper returned with a piece of exquisite jade jewelry. Madam, this is our most expensive item, crafted from fine northern blood jade. It's valued at 10,000 taels. Please confirm your decision. Due to the rarity of the jade, once purchased, it cannot be returned or exchanged. At the mention of 10,000 taels, her face stiffened visibly. She quickly put on a performance, trying to cause a scene. 10,000 for just a jade headpiece. Are you trying to swindle me, sister? I smiled faintly and didn't argue, replying with deliberate kindness. You're right. It is a bit expensive, even if it's rare blood jade from the northern border. But we do have other simpler pieces. Why don't you browse those instead? Though I was clearly mocking her, if she had any sense, she'd take the exit I offered. But no, Yao Yinlin was too arrogant, too small-minded. She flared up immediately. Sister, are you looking down on me? I'm the one Qin Mingyang loves most. What don't I have the means to buy? 10,000 taels. Even if it were 100,000, I could still afford it. Suayu Pavilion had always been known for its fine design and reasonable prices. So the shop was often crowded with guests. Unfortunately for her, she raised her voice at the worst possible time. Nearby customers overheard and began whispering. "Isn't that the concubine from the Qin family? She sure talks big, saying she can buy 100,000 tael jewel. A concubine coming to the former consort's shop to show off. Seems the Qin household doesn't teach proper manners." You didn't hear. Back then, the entire estate's funds were. I saw one guest about to mention the confiscation incident. To prevent Yao Yinlin from backing out, I quickly cut in with mock sweetness. "Wow, sister, you're truly wealthy. In that case, why not sign the contract now instead of just making claims?" A cold smile tugged at my lips, full of disbelief. Still holding her posture of noble arrogance. Her next words made me want to laugh out loud. "I didn't bring enough silver with me today. Just deliver the piece to the Qin manor, His Highness will pay." My goal had been to embarrass her publicly. I didn't expect she'd serve up such a delightful surprise. To stop her from changing her mind, I goaded her again. "Oh, no need, sister. If you don't have the money, just say so. If the piece gets delivered to the manor and the prince refuses to pay such a sum, you'll be the one left humiliated." Ever since she became pregnant, Qin Mingyang had spoiled her endlessly. Hearing my words, Yao Yinlin gave me a disdainful look. "Sister, I understand what you're thinking," she said loftily. "After all, the prince has never shown you a kind face. But you don't have to worry. He's already told me himself, if I like something, I can have it. Whatever I want." I could hear the bragging in her voice. Given the current state of the Qin household, no matter how much Qin Mingyang doted on her, he would never say something that foolish. Still, I feigned irritation and replied with mockery. "Sister, be careful not to let the wind twist your tongue and hurt yourself in the process. If you're so confident, are you bold enough to sign the purchase slip with your own hand?" She raised her chin proudly. What wouldn't I dare? As she was about to sign, I pressed down the brush and reminded her one last time. "You'd better think carefully. Once this jade headpiece leaves Suayu Pavilion, we do not accept returns. If you don't have the means, it's best not to pretend you do." My words enraged her. She flung my hand aside and immediately signed and stamped the paper. When it was done, she turned away with an air of triumph, as if she had just won a great battle. Then she glanced back at me, her smile sharp with malice. "You're just jealous, sister. The prince treats me so well, it's only natural you can't accept it. Whether it's this headpiece or anything else, if I want it, he'll give it to me." She gave me a pitying look. "There are some things you simply can't envy. Why don't you carry the headpiece back to the manor yourself, for me?" Though Qin Mingyang and I had already divorced, we hadn't made it public yet. To outsiders, I was still the official consort of the Qin household. Yao Yinlin's goal was clear. To make me lose face by forcing me to personally deliver the item to the manor like a servant. The onlookers were stunned, waiting to see how I would respond. In my past life, I would have been humiliated and furious. But now, the empty title of princess consort meant nothing to me. So I calmly replied. "All right. I'd love to see how your little play ends." She misunderstood my composure as me clinging to pride, convinced that I'd soon be publicly humiliated. With a smirk, she turned her head, completely unaware. The real performance had just begun. I brought the shopkeeper with me and followed her straight to the gates of the Qin manor. As soon as the doors creaked open, the shopkeeper, following my earlier instructions, called out in a loud, clear voice for all the world to hear. "Your humble servant is Wang, shopkeeper of Suayu Pavilion. Today, the prince's concubine purchased a jade headpiece valued at 10,000 taels. I asked the steward of the Qin household to come out and make the payment." Yao Yinlin was stunned. She had never imagined he would shout it out loud at the gates. This was exactly what she wanted, to shame me before the people. But she hadn't expected my people would help her do it. She turned to me, mocking. Sister, I didn't know your people were so crude. I intended to wait until we were inside the manor to ask the prince for payment. For your sake, to preserve your dignity. If the prince pays for me here, in front of all these people, where will your face be? I answered coolly. Face is worth less than silver. Why don't you ask the prince to come pay up now? After all, if in front of all these witnesses he refuses to pay, you'll be the one left embarrassed, not me. She narrowed her eyes and snapped. You've barely been running this shop a few days. And you already reek of copper stench. Fine. I'll show you just how much the prince loves me. With that, she proudly ordered her maid to summon the prince. But to her surprise, Qin Mingyang was not in the residence. The one who stepped out was none other than the old princess consort. The shopkeeper gave me a glance. I nodded slightly. He stepped forward and bowed. Madam, this is a jade headpiece valued at 10,000 taels, purchased by the prince's concubine. Here is the invoice. We respectfully request that payment be made immediately. The old princess consort took the slip and scanned it. Her face darkened instantly. Without another word, she raised her hand and slapped Yao Yinlin across the face. Yao Yinlin clutched her cheek, eyes quickly welling with tears. Why did you hit me, aunt? She asked, confused and aggrieved. The old princess consort glared at her furiously. You dare spend 10,000 taels on a mere headpiece. Where did you get the nerve? Yao Yinlin replied, her voice thick with injustice. Aunt. I know the headpiece is expensive, but the Qin household isn't so poor it can't afford it. Why humiliate me like this in front of everyone? Her words only exposed her ignorance further. The old princess consort had always treated her well. But for her to slap her in public like this, the matter had clearly crossed the line. Yet she was still clueless, still pressing for answers. The old princess consort couldn't speak the full truth aloud. Instead, she shouted. You still have the audacity to argue. You pay for that thing yourself. The Qin manor won't spend a single tael. She turned and barked at the servants. Inside. Shut the gates. The household staff followed her at once, preparing to close the doors. It was only then that Yao Yinlin truly panicked. Abandoning her dignity, she rushed forward and grabbed the old princess consort's sleeve, pleading. Aunt, how can you treat me like this? Even if you refuse to pay, the prince will surely settle it for me. There's no need to lock me out over a headpiece. The old princess consort trembled with rage. She let out a cold laugh. You're threatening me with the prince now. Yao Yinlin's face went pale. No. That's not what I meant, aunt. I was tired of watching them turn the gates of the manor into a private courtyard for their quarrels. I stepped forward, lighting the final spark. Old princess consort, sister, if neither of you intends to pay, why not just wait for the prince? Surely, he won't refuse you. The old princess consort turned and looked at me, stunned. As if truly seeing me for the first time. Muolan, she said coldly. Since you entered this household, we've never treated you poorly. Why must you go this far to sabotage the Qin family? Feigning shock, I raised my voice. Old princess consort, how can you say that? Sister insisted on purchasing the headpiece. I tried to dissuade her, I really did. She's venomous. The old princess consort snapped. This whole trap was clearly set by her, and yet she dares play innocent. Just then, Qin Mingyang rushed back to the manor, drawn by the commotion. Trying to appear strong despite his injuries, he barked at me in a harsh voice. He snatched the invoice from a servant's hand, ripped it to shreds in front of everyone, and glared at me. This ends here. Muolan, don't test my patience any further. I dropped my arms to my sides, my expression calm. You've destroyed the invoice, Your Highness. What more can I do? But in the future, maybe the Qin household shouldn't open its mouth so wide. Refusing to pay, how embarrassing. Muo Lan. Qin Mingyang ground his teeth, livid. I showed no fear. We were divorced. What could he possibly do to me now? Your Highness, I'll say it again. The jade headpiece was her own idea. She personally asked me to bring it to the manor. You're welcome to send someone to investigate. With that, I turned and left with the shopkeeper. I didn't argue. I didn't linger. I didn't chase the matter further. Suiyu Pavilion needed to thrive. It wouldn't do to truly offend Qin Mingyang at this stage. No, today was only to plant a thorn in his heart. Something that would sting whenever he thought of it. Soon, I would strike deep. And when I did, he would bleed. Not long after, the Qin household hosted a flower appreciation banquet. To get back at me, Yao Yinlin secretly ordered her servants to slip aphrodisiac wine into my food. She wanted to ruin my reputation. Have me caught in an indecent state. So the prince would have grounds to remove me as official consort. But I had long seen through her petty scheme. So I played Ing. Drank the wine willingly. And feigned dizziness. Then, I requested to be excused, claiming I needed to rest. Just as she planned, her people took me to a remote courtyard. And laid me on a bed. As soon as the servant turned to leave, a swift strike from the shadows knocked him unconscious. Xiaotao looked at me, asking softly, "What shall we do next, miss?" "Tie him up. Hide him in the wardrobe. Then go fetch Yao Yinlin, bring her here." Xiaotao disguised herself as a maidservant and went off to lure the concubine in. Soon, I heard her anxious voice just outside. "Where is she? Wasn't she unconscious? What happened?" Xiaotao played her part perfectly. "I don't know, madam. I swear I left her here, passed out. When I turned down, she was gone." Still speaking, she led Yao Yinlin into the room. The moment she entered, she spotted me. Sitting beside the bed, a smile on my lips. Immediately, she knew something was wrong. She turned to flee, only for the maid behind her to be knocked out in one silent blow. I forced her to drink the same aphrodisiac wine. Then laid her on the bed. And I hid myself, waiting in the shadows. Soon, her lover would arrive. I had originally planned to expose them both tonight. But now, they had handed me the perfect setup themselves. Right on cue, the maid disguised by Xiaotao rushed into the banquet, crying out, "The concubine is missing." Gasps erupted through the crowd. Everyone looked down. Sure enough, Yao Yinlin hadn't been seen for quite some time. Qin Mingyang's expression darkened. His voice was low and urgent. "What's going on? Speak." The disguised maid feigned panic and stammered. She said she felt dizzy from drinking and asked to rest. I helped her toward the rear garden, but when we reached the rockery, she said she was thirsty and asked me to fetch tea. When I returned, she was gone. I don't know where she went. A floral banquet suddenly marred by the disappearance of a concubine. Unacceptable. Unforgivable. As expected, given how much he favored her, Qin Mingyang immediately gathered guards to search for her. Eventually, they reached a quiet and used courtyard. The group hesitated. No one dared move forward. From inside, vulgar moans and obscene noises spilled into the open air. They were impossible to ignore. The crowd stared at one another in disbelief, whispering, "Who's in there? How dare they do such a thing in broad daylight?" Wasn't the Qin household always known for strict discipline? To let this happen now, they've lost all face. The old princess consort, who upheld tradition and rules more than anyone, couldn't bear another second. She gave a sharp order. Break down the door. The door crashed open. Inside, two figures scrambled to pull on their clothes. But it was far too late. One of the faces, now fully exposed under the bright daylight, was Yao Yinlin. Qin Mingyang's face turned ashen, then pitch black, then ashen again. His eyes darkened to the color of ink, his expression terrifying. Yao Yinlin, realizing the magnitude of her disgrace, collapsed to her knees. My lord. I don't know what happened. I woke up and it was like this. Someone drugged me. I was framed. She pointed at me, desperation in her voice. It was her. It must have been sister. She set me up. I looked at her and laughed. Even if she realized the truth now, so what? The deed was done. There was no saving her reputation. From today on, the capital would know her name for what it truly was. Shameless. All eyes turned on her with revulsion. No one believed her. A concubine, caught mid-debauchery in the very heart of the prince's manor. Trying to pin the blame on the official consort. The one who organized the banquet itself. Absurd. But Qin Mingyang believed her. Of course he did. His pride wouldn't allow him to face the truth. That the woman he had once risked his life to save had betrayed him. He turned his venomous gaze on me. Muolan, he said coldly. How dare you do something this vile, at the flower banquet, no less. You knew she was pregnant. If something had happened to my child, I would have taken your life myself. His words were excessive. But the moment the crowd heard she was pregnant, they instinctively looked toward her belly. Yao Yinlin's child had been there for 3 months already. Well past stable. But Qin Mingyang, foolish man that he was, still thought it had only been 1. Still, that lie gave Yao Yinlin an excuse to climb higher. Exactly. I'm carrying your child. How could I possibly have done anything so reckless in this state? It was sister. She's jealous that I'm pregnant with your heir. I understand, sister. You haven't been able to conceive. But to scheme against me like this. You're harming royal blood. The accusation was sharp. Treasonous. She had the gall to claim I was trying to destroy royal blood. The crowd's expressions shifted instantly. Even Qin Mingyang barked out the next command without hesitation. Muolan, you should be grateful the child is unharmed. Now kneel and beg Yinlin for forgiveness. A gasp rippled through the guests. He actually dared command the official consort to kneel before a concubine. But I wasn't surprised. In our past life, for this same woman, Qin Mingyang was willing to bury my entire family alive. I looked at him coldly. There was no longer any reason to pretend. Yes, I said. She was drugged. That was my doing. Yao Yinlin immediately seized the moment, screaming. You all heard that. She admitted it. She harmed me. I'm just a concubine, my status is beneath hers. No power in the manor, and still I'm being framed like this. Your Highness must give me justice. Please, I was forced, truly forced. You must forgive me. Yao Yinlin wailed, her voice hoarse with desperation. Qin Mingyang, face cold and dark, let out a sneer. So you finally admit it. Good. Then give up the position of official consort as compensation. And go hang yourself to atone. My eyes widened in rage. I never imagined this rotten man would not only strip me of my title. By pinning this false charge on me, he now wanted my life as well. Ha! My gaze toward him turned frosty. And then I laughed, harsh, mocking. Have you forgotten, Your Highness? We already divorced. My words struck like thunder. A single line, and waves erupted. Qin Mingyang hadn't expected me to strike back. to publicly expose the divorce. He clenched his teeth and roared. Muolan. You've grown bold. I ignored his fury, raised my hand, and pointed directly at the woman still trembling on the bed. Speaking of bold, who can match your concubine? Your Highness may not know. But that man lying there has slept with her more than once. And the child in her belly. It's his. Muolan, you're spouting nonsense. You won't rest until I'm dead, is that it? Yao Inlin's voice cracked as she shrieked in panic. I didn't spare her a glance. I continued. That child, she's almost 3 months along already. But the timing doesn't add up. Ring in a physician, have him check. Or better yet, Your Highness, think back. That night, after the fire, when you lay with her. Was there anything strange? Did you really lie with her? Or were you drugged? My questions struck one after another. Each one hitting where it hurt most. Qin Mingyang began to falter. That night, Yao Inlin had indeed drugged him to ensure the child's paternity. Back then, he hadn't questioned it. But now, looking back, nothing made sense. Everything was suspicious. The old princess consort couldn't hold back any longer. She stormed forward and slapped Yao Inlin across the face. You wretched thing! I treated you well. And this is how you repay me. Betraying my son and carrying some bastard's child. You deserve to die. Yao Inlin could only sob, her breathing broken and ragged. She shook her head over and over. No. Aunt, it's not true. This child, it's His Highness's. She's trying to frame me. Seeing Qin Mingyang still frozen, she slid off the bed and crawled to him. Clutching his robe, begging. Your Highness. Please, you must believe me. This child is yours, yours. But Qin Mingyang's expression was like ice. His eyes clouded over, impossible to read. He stared at her, voice low and terrifying. Tell me the truth. This man, did you know him before? Is the child really mine? Though his tone was calm, the chill in it cut to the bone. Yao Inlin trembled like a leaf. Her lips quivered as she nodded, then shook her head, then nodded again. I knew him before. But the child, it's yours. It has nothing to do with him. She was spiraling. Her lies, tangled beyond repair. And so, with her last path still flickering dimly in her eyes, I struck the final blow. When the prince was being treated for the burns, Physician Wu secretly came to see me. He made it very clear. Those injuries have affected your ability to father children. So tell me, where did her child come from? What? The room froze. Qin Mingyang. Yao Inlin. The old princess consort. All of them stared at me in stunned silence. I arched a brow, feigning helplessness. At that time, I was still your official wife. Naturally, this matter concerned me deeply. Physician Wu and my father are old friends. Is it really so strange that he'd tell me this in private? Yao Inlin collapsed completely. Her body going limp as she crumpled to the floor. Unable to argue any longer. Qin Mingyang looked at the scene before him. And at last, he understood. You filthy wretch! With a roar, he lashed out and kicked her hard, sending her crashing into the wall. Suddenly, she coughed up a mouthful of blood. Blood began to seep beneath her, blooming dark and wide. The man hiding on the bed could no longer conceal himself. He knelt before Qin Mingyang and begged for mercy. Your Highness, spare me. She seduced me, it has nothing to do with me. Qin Mingyang snatched a sword from a nearby guard and raised it high, ready to kill him on the spot. But he didn't expect. The man was highly skilled in martial arts. Just as Qin Mingyang approached, the man sprang to his feet, snatched the sword, and drove it straight into Qin Mingyang's chest. Ah! Screams rang out in waves. Guards swarmed in, cutting the man down where he stood. But the damage was done. Qin Mingyang collapsed, severely wounded, and fell unconscious. Before passing out, he stared at Yao Yinlin with a look of pure hatred. His final words dripping with venom. "You filthy wretch! I will kill you." News of the scandal spread like wildfire. Qin Mingyang became the laughingstock of the capital. For my sake, father submitted a formal memorial accusing him directly before the emperor. The emperor, who had long harbored suspicion toward Qin Mingyang, seized the opportunity and demoted him, exiling him to the northern frontier. When I later returned to the Qin manor to retrieve my belongings, I came across Yao Yinlin being recaptured after a failed escape. I almost didn't recognize her. Her face and body were covered in burn scars. Raw, twisted remnants of the fire. The guards who came to seize her showed no care for her life or death. If she so much as struggled or screamed, they beat her mercilessly. When she saw me, she tried to crawl toward me to beg. But her body was nothing more than a crumpled mass of ruined flesh. She couldn't even lift her limbs. At that moment, Qin Mingyang stepped out. He no longer wore the mask that once hid his burn-scarred face. The twisted flesh, the glint of cruelty in his eyes. He looked like something from the underworld. He glared at Yao Yinlin coldly. "Run. You did this to me. And you dare run." Yao Yinlin smashed her head against the ground, sobbing. "Your Highness. I was wrong. Please, kill me. Just kill me." Qin Mingyang grabbed her by the hair and yanked her up violently. "Die. No. I'll make sure you live a life worse than death." Disgusted by the pitiful sight, I turned to leave. But his voice stopped me. "Muolan, it was my fault. She deceived me. But you've always loved me the most. Just give me one more chance. This time, I'll treat you and only you well." I didn't look back. My voice was cold with loathing. "Qin Mingyang, if you don't want my father to deal with you harshly, you'd best shut that filthy mouth of yours." Truth be told, my father no longer needed to lift a finger. The emperor had already run out of patience. Qin Mingyang wouldn't survive the journey north. Sure enough, not long after I returned home, the news arrived. Qin Mingyang died mysteriously on the road to exile. I let out a long sigh. Relief and satisfaction swept through me in equal measure. From this day forward, I could finally live in peace. The end.